It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this January the 1st, 2022. And a very happy new year to each and every one of you. Couple things to cover this morning. One, this is not the live broadcast that it normally is. Instead, our feature today will be a recent interview I had with Down Low with Kevin Lowe. We'll get to that in just a second. There are a couple of things to cover this morning. Cruise ship sailing today from North America ports down at Port Canaveral. You've got Mariner of the Seas, and down in Miami, Carnival Freedom. So don't forget that you can access podcasts now of the travel and cruise industry news anywhere that you normally listen to your podcasts, like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Pandora, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like I say, today's broadcast is not live. I will be back on Monday for Travel and Cruise Industry News at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you then for all the latest in travel and cruise industry. So, a poignant interview with a man who has been blind since age 17. Right after this. Back on Travel and Cruise Industry News, and now for my interview with Kevin Lowe. The Down Low with Kevin Lowe. My guest this morning on Chillie Chats is Lowdown with Kevin Lowe. Kevin, welcome to Chillie Chats.
Chillie, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. I got so many questions, so many areas I could go with this. I guess the biggest thing is just to give us a little synopsis of your life story up to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much that invited me onto the show. So yeah, I think probably the pivotal point in my life was the year 2003, and up until that point in my life, at which point I was 17 years old, a junior in high school. I lived a really normal life growing up. I got to do some amazing things, got to travel a lot with my family growing up. We did a lot of amazing vacations. I got to see some incredible places, like going to Alaska and down to the Florida Keys and even doing like awesome stuff like riding dirt bikes. I got my first dirt bike at like 3 years old, and dirt bikes and four-wheelers were huge for me. 16 years old, got my driver's license. I got my dream truck. It was a 96 Ford F-150 4x4. It was raised with big mud tires, and oh man, it was my baby. And and so life was going great at that point in 2003. Until all of a sudden it wasn't. And came with the news that I had a brain tumor. I had been having some medical issues that we weren't getting any answers for. And so we finally had changed my doctor, and that doctor immediately recognized that something wasn't right. And so he sent me to a specialist. That specialist sent me to have an MRI, and the MRI results are what showed that I had a brain tumor. The brain tumor was very large. It was comparable to the size of a plum, was positioned basically right like in the middle of my brain. It had completely encased my pituitary gland, was in the crosshairs of my optic nerve, and was pressing against my carotid artery. It was so severe in the fact that they literally said that I had 6 months to live if it was not removed. Luckily it was not cancerous. But it was still, it was going to take my life. And that was that was a big deal for me, as 17 years old, to think how close I came within 6 months to my life being over, and wouldn't even had any clue. And so anyways, but I had the leading pediatric neurosurgeon literally an hour from our home over in Orlando, Florida. And had him an amazing group of doctors at an awesome hospital. And so we were very confident. And the doctors, I mean, they acted like it was no big deal. They deal with tumors all the time. And so, and even, the pediatric neurosurgeon, he said, he's like, he assured us everything was going to be fine. Said I'd be out of school for like 3-4 weeks. As I always joke, that the thing I was the most upset about was that he said that I wouldn't be able to ride my four-wheeler for like 6 months, to give my head time to heal. And for myself, that was a big deal. And anyways, I go into surgery on October 28th, 2003. And that was kind of the moment when my life changed, because my life was saved. The tumor was removed, but at a cost no one ever expected. And that came in the way of me awaking from surgery to be left completely blind. And so I compare it. I tell people the comparison to let people understand the magnitude of this situation. As I often compare it to the fact that at that moment, my life that I had died on the operating room table.
Yeah.
And a new life began.
Yeah.
And so it's been 18 years since that day, which seems hard to even just fathom that amount of time has passed, because so much of my life today still revolves around, the sighted life I had, and in remembering what things look like, and and such. And so anyways, that's kind of my past that's led me on this path that that I'm on today, and traveling and trying to figure out where in the world it's headed. So
yeah. All right, the next obvious leading question for me, and since my audience, I have two audiences. I have my basic travel cruising audience, which I consider them normal folk, and then I've got folks like me and you that have some kind of disability or accessible issues, and so I've got both audiences that I cater to. But you owned and operated and were a travel agent for some time and recently had to close it. So I guess tell us a little bit about Better Days Travel and how that all came about and ended.
Of course. So after I went blind, at that moment, every kind of thought, idea, dream I had for the future was kind of taken from me. Now, thankfully, I was not one of those kids in my 11th grade year at high school who had my future all planned out. I'm very thankful that wasn't the case, because any idea for the future was gone. And so I find myself in these years after becoming blind, had all these things happening, trying to just get used to living again, and learning all these new skills, like how to use talking software on a computer, and learning Braille, and how to get around with a cane, and all of this stuff. And it finally led me to this point where I participated in a job readiness program through the Center for the Visually Impaired. And they did this whole program, and the whole point that I signed up in the program was that at the end of it, they would hook you up with an internship at a local business. And so for myself, there were two areas that I was interested in. One was travel, the other was radio. And so they would end up setting me up with an internship at a local AM radio station where I would work on the morning drive show. And then the other internship was at a local travel agency. And so because the reason for travel is because, I got to travel a lot as a kid. And I realized, though, that even after I lost my eyesight, that traveling has always continued to be something that I've loved. And I can't tell you, I I I think it's been every cruise that I've been on after becoming blind, we have had at least one person come up to us, who to me and whoever I'm with, and say, "Oh my gosh, like it's so amazing, that you're on a cruise," and they'll say that, and then they follow it up by, like I just don't really even understand like why you would come on a cruise when you can't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that always just has blown my mind. I always laugh, and I'm like, well, there's more to it than just what you're able to see. I'm like, it's the experience. And so and that's for me. And I really realized that not being able to see has allowed me the opportunity to really, in my opinion, see the world kind of in a way better than people with sight, because you start paying attention to the other senses and really getting like this deeper kind of sensory experience. And so all of that is what led me to have this interest in travel. The internship at the travel agency, they only did cruises, which was cool. I loved cruises, and so I worked with them. And at the end of the internship, they weren't in a position to take on anybody. And so the radio station wasn't either. And so I was really back at square one and didn't know what to do until I found out about this whole idea of becoming a home-based travel agent. And so in January of 2013, I opened my own company, own home-based travel agency called Better Days Travel. And that has been my baby, my own business that I have worked at for the past 8 years. Excuse me.
No problem.
And so the travel agent, I loved it. Absolutely loved the business. And then it really, last year during the pandemic and stuff, when I was set to have the best year on record, and as with all of us in the travel business, the overnight it all went away, and that kind of just opened new opportunities for me.
Your business is now completely shut down, correct?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That was a tough one. I must say that was a tough one, but I finally came to this point where I realized, I was like, I don't even want to book any more trips now, and so I finally was like, you know what, Kevin, like, it doesn't mean that I can't ever go back to it again, but for right now, it's not for you. So,
all right. Looking at and listening, more of the listening than looking at. I've looked at your blog. I've listened to a number of your podcasts. How would you rate your podcast in what you are hoping to accomplish? Is it inspirational? Is it challenging? Is it?
Yeah, of course. So it is definitely a thing that, for myself, that with every episode I produce, that my whole goal for it is to inspire others.
Okay.
And specifically to, with the guests that I have on my show, is to definitely just inspire people to never give up on life. As I say, even when it seems like life has given up on you. And so that's where it's just this source that I'm hoping that, and have seen so far, where it's able to touch people all over the world by me getting to not only share little bits about me and my story, but other people's stories. And so that's kind of the thing of the podcast, and I'm seeing we're opening more opportunities for me to expand into other ways of helping people as well. So,
well, I have
not
thoroughly
sure if that answered exactly your question.
Yeah, absolutely. and I have thoroughly enjoyed
Wonderful.
going back. And I've got, you've had, what is it, 68 episodes now, and I have not listened. I've listened to
Yes.
maybe 12, so I've got a lot of catching up
Okay.
to do.
Yes.
As I am getting ready to get back to travel, as a matter of
Okay.
fact, I was just recently interviewed by the New York Times, and one of the
Oh,
things
wow.
they said, with all the health issues you've had, and the fact that you're on oxygen, which I'm, because I'm sitting still right now, I don't have my oxygen on because I'm fine until I have to walk 30 feet. Then I got to have the oxygen.
Yes.
But sitting here at my computer, I'm perfectly fine. But they said, with all
Okay.
these issues, why would you put yourself through the danger of going on a cruise again? And I said, well, what the hell? Once I get on the boat, I will feel safer than going to Kroger's down the street and going in to buy some groceries. And they said, well, why is that? And I said, because the cruise lines and the CDC they've gotten their protocols and they're working. They're doing what they're supposed to do. When you were traveling,
Yep.
did you ever feel unsafe?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. No, and that even, and I can't remember now like what year it was and how long I've been doing travel, but I even at one point traveled without any family or friends, but with other travel agent friends to Jamaica. That was the first trip by myself and went out of the country. And I must say, Jamaica, that made me, I fell in love with that country and never felt unsafe.
Now, this is purely, and this is one of those I'm probably politically incorrect things, but I got to ask you, Kevin.
Okay.
You go on a cruise ship. It's brand new to you. You've never been on that ship before. How do you find your way around?
Well, thank goodness I'm not going on a cruise ship by myself. And so I'm with people, but you know what though, on a cruise ship, I don't really think it matters if you're blind or not, because I think everybody's lost on a cruise until the last day when you finally feel like you've
Yeah.
found, you know. But the other thing though I have to say about cruise ships in general is they're actually kind of simple to navigate, even when walking around by myself, for the fact that when we're talking about coming out of your cabin, I mean, most of it's nothing but a grid of straight hallways.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty easy to, understand, like, I'm going to go down and I'm going to, walk straight. I mean, the only thing that I have to watch out for are when the people put their trays from morning breakfast out in the hallway. And, and so that's the only hazard.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, this
and,
is just... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing about cruising that for myself that has always been amazing to me is the staff and how incredible they are, because I've been on cruise where, I've wanted to get somewhere, family has wanted to go do other things or whatnot. And, so if I'm having trouble, there's staff always everywhere. And so I have never had an issue, with a staff member. Normally they see this guy walking around with a cane, and I kind of as I say, this big blind guy, they kind of draw a little bit of attention to myself. And so normally they come up asking if they can assist me. And I tell you, they're always amazing in helping me. So it really makes it quite easy. So.
All right. One other question. You use a cane. Have you ever considered, or is there a reason why not, to have a dog?
I have not. My family, from the time I went blind, they wanted me to have a seeing eye dog. So bad. And I personally I've never cared to. I've never have that responsibility. I have my little 12-pound black and white Sophia,
Yeah.
And she's by no means any type of seeing eye dog. She's a pet, and she's definitely enough. So as I say, my cane, I don't have to feed it. I don't have to get it water.
Yeah.
It doesn't care if I don't take it on a walk, so it works good. So
all right, Kevin, this has just been fascinating. I so appreciate you being with me, and we definitely will have to stay in touch.
absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and yeah, it was a pleasure coming on the show.
All right, thanks, Kevin. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
My guest today has been Kevin Lowe. Lowdown with Kevin Lowe. Just absolutely awesome. We'll talk to everybody after this. And thanks for being with me on today's interview with Down Low with Kevin Lowe. I'll see everybody on Monday for travel and cruise industry news. That's it for today. Have a great day, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.